You know, it's been a while since I last destroyed my credibility. Titanfall. Yes, the last official Source Engine game release I'm willing to accept, no Battle Royale and all that. Respawn Entertainment's Titanfall 2 is a game that many have called one of the best FPS campaigns ever made. Recently, I beat it. It took 4 hours and 25 minutes, deaths included, so I also kind of started it and finished it in like 3 days. Now, nobody calls it the longest, let's be fair. I wasn't upset with the length. If they set up and wrap up their loose ends and follow through, the game's length won't be an issue. Let me in, introduce the characters, show me the bad guy, let me fight the bad guy, then let me go home. Seems simple enough. Titanfall 2 is set in a far future in which combat has, for lack of a better term, accelerated. Pilots are essentially super soldiers capable of blasting around the battlefield at high speeds, running across walls, dashing, and cloaking around. And the guns of the future have gotten more and more dangerous to boot, with the likes of drum-fed shotguns, energy weapons, gravity-altering explosive devices. These are just the norm on battlefields now. If the thought of a human being traveling at car speeds at you, wall jumping and punching you so hard you instantly die isn't enough, these guys are also capable of calling in Titans, two-story walking tanks that, despite the impracticality of walking around on legs and holding weapons in their arms, instead of being on treads or hovering and with weapons mounted to them, absolutely lay waste to everything in their path. Yes sirree, an escalation of force is on the menu, and you play as Jack Cooper, part of a militia fighting off the apex predators working for the IMC on the planet Typhon, home of the world's first Vault Hunter. Wait, forget that last part. Not important. Unfortunately, your ploy to get the drop on these guys ends up wildly off course, and your higher up, Captain Lastimosa, dies, leaving you with his giant walking tank BT-7274. Armed with a giant assault rifle the size of a semi-truck, firing rounds way larger than 50 BMG, homing missiles, a reflector shield, and all other manners of destructive ordnance. Even its punches can turn panicked soldiers into a meaty sauce. I'll say this, the game looks nice, soundtrack's okay, actual pilot gameplay is fun. The parkour feels nice and fluid, the cloaking and melee is fun, the guns are awful. Why are the guns so awful? The EVA 8 and the LMGs are really the only exceptions I have. The flatline is fine enough, but most everything else fires either much too slow, much too inaccurate, or is just awkward to use. So in short, I'd recommend just not bothering with most other weapons. Leave that Mozambique where it is, you don't need it. That said, the game's like 5 years old now, so you probably already knew that. The game lets you run through an opening area at the very outset to test out its arsenal, so you get to see what I mean there. In my humble opinion, if you're going to do a slow weapon in a fast game, it should be a no-brainer for me to use it. In Doom Eternal, the Super Shotgun's blast radius makes it useful when on the move, but I can maximize damage output by getting up close and personal, get out to reload, and dive back in. The Ballista, by comparison, only gets one bolt at a time, so if I miss, it's a big deal. But those bolts are actually wider than they look and do way more damage when used right. Especially with its ults that encourage you to make more room to charge up the weapon in exchange for deleting more powerful enemies from sight. In a game like Titanfall, where a point-blank meat shot with the EVA 8 or a headshot with the DMR deal similar damage, it's just easier to get in, blast away, and get out. Especially since enemies aren't the best at leading their shots. Must be an EA thing. Sniping in a game where you slide around the battlefield at Mach speeds just isn't very feasible, and your health is scarce, so coming to a standstill is a death sentence. The missions themselves are okay. There are 4 levels absolutely worth talking about, which is like half the game, so I'll talk about them. This industrial area where they're building combat arenas is pretty neat and almost feels like a critique of Battle Royale like a year before Battle Royale. Though this Inception area feels really tacked on, I probably wouldn't have minded it if there wasn't an achievement for playing it. You need to play it to beat this level. I don't know why there's an achievement other than to draw attention to it. And it doesn't need attention drawn to it, in my opinion. And when doing research on what people liked about this game, this was one of the levels that came up consistently, leading right into Effect and Cause, a level so interesting it has its own Wikipedia page. It's that important. Effect and Cause is divided across 2 eras seemingly set years apart, and you warp between them by using your cloak. From a technical standpoint, there are 2 copies of the same map layered like 1,000 meters over one another, and the transition is pretty much seamless. The combat scenes in this level tend to take a backseat to let the platforming shine. And it's really, really good. I'd rather play a game that's just this mechanic though, because it's a fun platformer and the environments are really stylish. It's just a shame that this is all tough to pull off, especially in Hammer, so it's a one and done. If anybody's made a game like this, please let me know. I will play a game that's just switching between like two worlds on a click of a button. Seems fun. The next level, the Beacon, is also pretty alright. I actually think I like the platforming in this one a little more than Effect and Cause, although I think Effect and Cause is just a cooler level. You know what I'm realizing? Titanfall 2 is most fun when it gets vertical, when I'm running and jumping. The Titan feels pretty, I don't know, extraneous in this campaign. I really don't enjoy the slower Titan combat. Hopefully there's not a mission, quote, tightly focused on Titans and Titan combat with the player able to complete the entire ordeal without once disembarking from their Titan. That would be miserable. Oh. 2 more really unappealing levels follow before we get to the finale. BT has been incapacitated and the main antagonist is stealing the Ark from him. The Ark was part of this temporal god weapon the Apex Predators were working on to obliterate a planet. You actually got to see what it's capable of in Effect and Cause. It will effectively fold the world around on itself. So thousands of years pass in the blink of an eye and the planet just crumples under the weight of physics. I don't think I know exactly what's going on, but they do a good job at making it sound scary, so it's fine. BT dies so we could fire the Smart Gun, a firearm whose bullets curve towards targets. This was actually a multiplayer weapon in the first Titanfall, and a lot of people were very disappointed that this was just a weapon you could use, because it's... I mean, look at it. So it became this ridiculous power-up in the second game, and you get to use it at the very end of the campaign. We take the Titan's data core and install it into this new Titan chassis. It's actually the same one from the tutorial. That's neat, I guess. And BT gets a minigun to fire. The minigun also gets homing bullets. I should know that there were alternate kits I could use throughout the game other than the rifle for the Titan, but they all kind of had drawbacks, and I just figured the assault rifle was easier. And to be honest, it was. But now we have a minigun and all sorts of other, even more destructive ordnance. We're kind of just chewing through Titan after Titan. And we get to fight... I don't know who that is. I should mention, there's been these Titan boss fights throughout. They do the Borderlands character intro thing where they tell you a little bit about the character, and then you gun them down remorselessly, and this character is no exception. One of the issues with doing a short campaign is I get next to no time to learn about your characters. Am I supposed to know them? Would I know them better if I played the first Titanfall? I have no idea. Oh hey, there's the bad guy. Time to defeat him, wrap up all the... Okay, neat. Okay, that's a familiar sight. Oh, okay, we are doing this. Okay, the Titan's dead again. I mean, it was never actually dead at all in this level, as Effect and Cause explains that there's a copy of its AI in Jack Titanfall's helmet. So this is a bait and switch and bait and switch and bait and... One canned running scene later and the game rolls credits and... Okay, yeah, I just explained that the AI's in the helmet. It's... Is this actually one of the best campaigns ever made? Have y'all just been pulling a prank on me? If this is one of the best, if not the best FPS campaign ever made, I think we need some higher standards. This was just okay. It's an okay to good front half and a pretty boring, frustrating back half, and I have so many issues with this plot. So, the bad guys, the Apex Predators, want to use the fold weapon to destroy Harmony. That's what makes them the bad guys. They're going to destroy a planet, cause massive loss of life. Jack and the militia, the good guys, destroy the planet the fold weapon's located on. I don't know if that's necessarily better. The militia also just obliterated every single person and life form stuck on Typhon. Good, bad, Apex Predator, or otherwise. That's still a pretty massive loss of life. I guess genocide's bad unless it saves the day, then genocide is good. I guess. God, what was that calling card? It looked really familiar. It's like half of a joke nobody watched a couple years ago. Everybody watched the second half more, and... No. 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 God damn it. I said no Battle Royale on this channel. Get out of here. Okay, so this guy, Blisk, is the main antagonist of Titanfall 2. Your goal is to defeat him in the Apex Predators. He fucking survives Titanfall 2. Decades later, he starts the Apex games, a blood sport trying to recruit new members for the Apex Predators to replace the ones he lost to Mr. Cooper. And he does it all with the money he earned for snatching the Ark from Cooper. In other words, Jax kind of failed at his mission. The planet the Predators were set to obliterate was saved, but they nuked a planet and accomplished nothing doing so. Hate to say it, but in Titanfall 2, your mission is kind of meaningless. You're doomed to fail. A new generation of Apex Predators will be installed, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because you didn't actually stop anybody. Sure, you killed like 5 or 6 guys and blew up a whole planet, but Blisk gets to run away scot-free. He faces no significant penalties for his attempted genocide other than a loss of time. Blisk just attempted to destroy a planet and he loses his squad mates, which he can replace, and he made a fuckload of money doing so. Jack and the militia outright destroy a planet, but no, you don't get it. It's not the planet Harmony. That planet getting destroyed would be sad. This is Typhon, it's fine. When I started writing this video, I imagined spending days analyzing the game's messages of an escalation of force, how the gameplay dissonance of fast, fluid parkour where like 2 or 3 hits is death, and this slow, tanky combat makes the game feel disjointed, and gives the second half a much slower pace that causes its 4-hour runtime to overstay its welcome. I expected to talk about how this game sets up more loose ends that can actually get to resolve, how it mostly just feels like a tech demo for an engine 12 years old when the game launched. And I'm not going to not mention those, but the fact that this game's plot is ultimately a drop in the bucket when Apex Legends confirms the bad guy faces no real consequences for his actions and his evil militia just gets to live again, absolutely floors me. It's one of the most absurd, frustrating plots I've come across just given that knowledge. Oh, and if they ever do a Titanfall 3, you're going to have to fight the characters in Apex. Hope you aren't too attached to them. You will kill them. They will be dead. Forever. But yeah, that celebration of an escalation of military force. Americans seem to love the idea of just arming both sides with bigger and bigger guns in conflict as it makes the stakes more impressive, and they would sure love the idea of no war crimes. I mean, the new Call of Duty lets you shoot people in the head with an incendiary bow. War crimes? Forget about it. They're fun, they're cool. White phosphorus is a power-up. Titanfall 2 sets up BT as a partner. This game's scenario is inspired by buddy cop movies. But there's no reason for me to get attached to the Titan because it's asinine that they would give this thing a personality. Titans are massive, hulking war crimes on legs. They crush, they reflect projectiles and launch barrages of heat-seeking missiles. Their weapons fire bullets like the size of you. The fact that these things walk around on 2 legs is ridiculous enough, but they also have to carry guns like a person. It's kind of a nightmare when you think about the logistics involved in making a giant mecha in that fashion. But they also just happen to make it sentient. Interesting choice. So I'm supposed to learn about this giant death robot designed solely to kill and come to see it as a friend. And I just can't. The pilots, compared to even the contemporary soldiers you fight in the game, are already able to heal from wounds super quickly. They can run 20 miles an hour, jump 15 feet straight up into the air, run across walls, and nearly every weapon used in warfare at that present moment is more than capable of making ragu out of foes in a split second. They already have a tremendous advantage in battle. Do they really need a giant walking tank designed to kill but capable of learning to love? And why should I look up to a mass-murdering war criminal capable of running up the fucking sighting? I don't care. I mean, none of the other Titans I fight against have a personality independent of their pilots. I get quips from those pilots inside, but their Titans never have anything to say. So it just feels like they've given me a robot that screams, and they're unsure as to why they made it scream. Also, this is a really inefficient way to do war. Throughout the game, you fight manhack-like drones. Drone warfare costs so much less than a giant 20-foot mech suit with onboard AI. And it can kill so many more people. Just ask these guys. Obviously, they went this route because it's cool. I'm not supposed to play just the campaign and critique it like we're debating whether it goes in the Criterion collection. In multiplayer, the Titans are essentially a power-up, giving you a huge boost to survivability and damage for playing well. In multiplayer, everyone runs around at breakneck paces, leaping off the walls and riding cables, so the level of force is equal. I'm not reviewing its multiplayer though. I don't play online multiplayer games. We're talking about the campaign. This is called one of the best campaigns ever. Okay, hear me out. This is going to get a little personal, but we are going to run with it, and hopefully I can explain myself. The Ultimate Doom is an instant S tier. Doom does one thing, but it does it so well. Every bit of square footage on these maps feels intentional and smartly designed. The shotgun is amazing and super versatile, every other weapon is fantastic, and the game dishes out heaps of catharsis the whole way through. Doom is fun from E1M1 to E4M8. This is the platonic ideal of FPSs. No fluff, no filler, just sheer running and gutting perfection. Left 4 Dead, whether we're talking 1 or 2, yeah, that campaign is easily S tier as well. The weapon selection is great, the plot lines are solid. Even getting to experience it all with friends makes this a done deal for anyone into FPSs. The AI director can be a little harsh on higher difficulties, but this is one of the easiest FPSs to get people into, because its gameplay is rock solid and foolproof with 3 extra hands on deck. You get people together, you pop in Left 4 Dead, you're having a good time. Doesn't matter what you're playing. As long as it's Left 4 Dead. Half-Life 1, that's an A tier. Everything from We've Got Hostiles to Forget About Freeman is kind of a slog, and honestly that makes Zen more of a breather than a disappointment in my book. Its final boss is a little underwhelming, but the atmosphere the whole way through is superb. The weapons all feel fantastic, they're all super versatile, and for 1998, playing not as a roided up space marine but a meek scientist just trying to get out of there makes the derelict halls of Black Mesa that much more terrifying. Every blood-stained hallway and crumbling cliffside that much more treacherous. Every medkit a guard died inches from and every discarded MP5 clutched in the rigor mortis-riddled hands of an HECU corpse that much more of a bittersweet gift. Doom Eternal? I'd happily call that an A tier campaign. The maps are fantastic, they look bloody gorgeous, the enemies and weapons are all satisfying. My only real issues with the campaign are that the Icon of Sin feels tacked on, the Earth locales are a little less interesting, and there's quite a few tools I just don't have any reason to use. But it's a damn fun 8 or so hours, and the base game's difficulty is super consistent throughout. Also in the A tier, Borderlands 2. It's more RPG than FPS at times, though I think somebody will try to argue with me about that in the comments. But the environments are varied, the missions are engaging, every character feels like they've got some purpose, whereas most of them felt like filler in one. And getting to come along this character arc Handsome Jack goes through really gives you an opportunity to learn so much more about the character than anyone else in Borderlands, and it makes his death a well-deserved cathartic one, making him suffer the same way he made Pandora suffer throughout his tyrannical oligarchical rule. Also, big numbers are good. B tier is home to the likes of Doom 2. The super shotgun is great, the new enemies are fun, but the middle act set on Earth is just boring. They bit off more than they could chew, and it shows. The game is more interested in building a set of gimmicks, a potential testbed for exciting new ways to use id Tech, or show modders some set pieces they could use in their mods. And the overall experience is just more frustrating and drawn out than its predecessor. What's up with the suburbs? This is ugly, this is bad. Quake? Yeah, I'd also give Quake a B tier as well. The tech leap for 1996 was impressive, but whereas Doom did one thing but did it well, Quake does one thing but only does it okay. Enemies feel spongy and the weapons feel rather ineffective at times. The grenade launcher and nail gun lack the panache and simple beauty of the plasma rifle and shotgun. It's more of a slog than Ultimate Doom despite being the same length, and the game just needs a more vivid color palette. It's very much just one tone throughout, and I feel like it could be a little more than that. But it was 1996, we were still figuring things out. Borderlands 3 is also a B tier game as well. The combat is superb, the sound design, the theming of making the enemies a cult, the other planets, goddamn flack. Its plot, though, feels like a sloppy reimagining of Borderlands 2, with character deaths feeling so much weaker and more pointless than those in 2, and a number of characters lacking a role in the plot, just kind of showing up for a check. In the base game, Tiny Tina is there for like 30 minutes, and she has one quest. I don't even know why they bothered. It's the video game equivalent of the angry video game nerd movie. It's trying to do so much as a means of being this great big send-off, but the end result is just kind of messy, hard to follow sometimes. And it's just kind of okay from most angles, instead of being superb from a couple. Here is about where I would stick Titanfall 2. It's doing 3 things. It's got this fluid parkour running gameplay, this Call of Duty like low health, high damage cover shooting, and this retro style tank hits shoot shit gameplay for the Titan. In my opinion, it does just one of these superbly. One of them just alright, and the Titan I could do without. If this was just a game about the parkour and the gunplay, I'd love it a whole lot more. It wouldn't rank on this tier list anymore though, because it'd be more of a stealth platformer at that point. I'm kind of just asking for Mirror's Edge, I get it, but on the whole as a package, its plot raises more questions than answers between its actual plot and the whole world around it. Its combat is often satisfying, but often grating, and shifting from fast and fluid to dragging a house through hangars back and forth just gets irritating. For 4.5 hours, it's fine. It's fine, but I can't call it even one of the best FPS campaigns I've ever played, at least by my criteria. But hey, it's not like I'm going to actually play more of this after beating it, so it's all water under the bridge now. Honestly, I think I just don't like war shooters anymore. Sci-fi's fine. Zombies, sure. Just hitting targets and going, yeah, look at this crazy thing. Yeah, definitely. But this, go militia, hoo-ha, shtick, I'm just not into. Maybe 2013 Black Ops 2 is one of my 4 games on my Wii U. Me would have liked this more. I don't know, it just feels like one of those things that you have to go into with no expectations. It definitely shock and surprise if you were expecting it just to be an afterthought relative to the multiplayer. But when you've been sold for years that this is the best FPS campaign ever made, how it's a must-play that'll make every other FPS feel weak by comparison, it just falls so short of the hype. Titanfall 2 is available on PC, Xbox One, and PS4 for $30. I would say get it cheaper. At full price, it's kind of a letdown, but your mileage may vary. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, I'd recommend subscribing. Patreon and social media links are in the description.